afternoon, everyone. I think we have extreme panelists out here, and we have been discussing about AI and chatbots. So this is a session which is going to be predominantly, I'll try to be making exciting because I think number one, this is after the lunch hours, so I'll not try to get out. And I think we have a fantastic panelists out here, 4 of the panelists as such. But before I get started out, I think let me get started with some of the humorous questions to the panelists directly, right? How many of you have interacted with chatbot or AI assistant in less than a week's time? How many of you have done? Rest, no one? Okay, cool. Okay, let me start asking some questions to our panelists, right? So I think I'm just opening out the floor for all the panelists and see that, hey, if you want to create a chatbot or AI assistant, right, that you want to automate something in your daily life, what it would be, and what's the name that you want to give it out to them? So maybe, Gio, let's get started with you.
Hello. Thank you for that question. I hate dealing with WhatsApp messages when I travel or wherever I go. I get a ton of them unsolicited, and so I have this thing where I have to answer each and every message I get and each and every email I get, which is causing me all kinds of problems. So I'd love for there to be an assistant that just takes care of it for me and kind of leaves the one that I need to personally do. So that's something I would really like.
Perfect. Sanjay, you want to answer?
Great question, and thanks for having me here. Interesting question. And since I come from a company named Bestseller, and we own a couple of fashion brands, and recently we rolled out the chatbots on our websites. And those chatbots are, out there to help you out, to check your order, to give you the status of your refund, cancellation, and moreover, we have built the full shopping journey out there. So that's the place basically I would like to be, I would like to interact with the bots, which can help me to complete the shopping journey, which starts with discovery, evaluation, and post that, the purchase.
Perfect. Mr. Mandeep, right?
Yeah.
So what chatbot you want to automate something in your daily life, and what is the name you will give?
Well, I'll go back into the time. For me, the best chatbot is going to be the genie of Aladdin ka Chirag.
Good.
Should be intelligent and should be stupid enough that, always remains as a slave. That's what we want AI. We want all the goodies from AI, and we would like that it is always under our thumb. So, genie of Aladdin ka Chirag.
Very good. Sanjay, you want to answer?
Right. Thanks, Nishith, Hemant. Right. So the chatbot which I need, though I'm having a chatbot in Swiggy, which is similar in nature to ChatGPT, but we have designed in a different fashion. The chatbot which I need in my personal life is, the name is Husband, and it'll be under the thumb of my wife. And all the questions she keeps asking me during the day, and let's say when I'm doing my work, if this chatbot can answer those questions for her, that will be my win of the day.
That is so fantastic to hear it. To be very honest, right? So all these chatbots ranging has came out and been adaptive about some of the technology adoption and been trying to automate and even innovate quite a number of stuffs that we actually do it out into a routine. But even having said that, from a next standpoint, I think one of the other areas which we are really going to ponder about is there are certain key questions that gets raised over a period of time about the usage of these stuff, talking about generative AI, talking about conversational AI, and the entire panelist and myself is trying to give an address, and we are going to keep it out, for example, for 45 odd minutes, and then we'll have the next 10 minutes open for the people who are in the audience to ask any questions for them. So let's get started, right? Nowadays we are talking about ChatGPT, generative AI. I think that has been a crux. So let's get started with you, Sanjay, right? What are the biggest challenges company face when implementing generative AI, and how can they overcome them?
Nishith, I think it has become imminent for the companies, to have something or other being deployed in the area of, let's say, generative AI, because it has become the need of an hour. If you're not doing it now, then probably you are lagging behind in the race. But look at it, I mean, this whole paradigm shift, from the manual kind of a mundane work to something like, generative AI, where the likes of chatbots are, able to answer your queries, questions, gives you some, insightful information about the topics. And at times, basically, these bots are able to strike a very meaningful conversation with you. So that is basically the expectation, but the challenges remain the same. The first and foremost challenge for any of the industry to employ this is that most of these models, they need a huge quantity of data. And the quality of data, the sanctity of data is one of the biggest challenge which I see, because without the data, these chatbots would not be, that meaningful or that usable the way basically it is desired to be. That's the first challenge I see. Second, I see that since the data is the feed, right? It's something like garbage in and garbage out. If the data quality is not good, the output from these chatbots, and particularly if you talk about the biases, if you talk about searches basically which gives you some non-descriptive answers, I think that remains a core, and that will actually give or break the confidence of the consumer. So I think the biggest challenge I see is the data, the quality of data which is required to make these chatbots meaningful.
Perfect, right? And I think I agree. I think quality and accuracy of the data, along with having a biasness and the fairness, is really very important. Hemant, you want to add some portion from your side on this stuff about the adoption? What are the challenges that the company faces in terms of generative AI adoptions? And I think you have made people loved about you, the example that you have given. So I think people want to understand some more from your side.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Nishith. So first, please remember that chatbot, ChatGPT, which is the new boy in the town, is still a tool. It's an advanced tool, it's a powerful tool, but it's a tool, and every tool has its limitation. There is no tool in this world which does not have limitation. And just to give you slightly better understanding what I am meaning by this, so let's say you are having a very fancy car, right, which is a race car, and it can drive all the speed of 300, but on a racetrack, extremely powerful car. Can you drive the same car on the village road? It's not possible, right? The car will get damaged. This powerful tool is useful in certain circumstances. What are those circumstances? I'll just give some pointers about them. So the one thing is that ChatGPT has looked at a very huge amount of data. Looking at that huge amount of data, it has been able to come with certain kind of mappings which are in a position to do certain kind of responses. So let's say if you ask this chatbot GPT that what has happened in 1947, right? And it will be able to give all the instances which may have happened, including independence of India, let's say. But if certain portions are missing in the written literature, right? Certain things which are not recorded there, ChatGPT is also unaware of these. Now, just to make it more concrete, what ChatGPT is in a position to do. So, how many of you have seen Three Idiots? How many of you remember Chatur? How many of you remember Chamatkar? Chamatkar, the speech which he does, okay? That Chamatkar word gets changed into another word, right? And the whole meaning gets changed. Chatbot is a mugging piece, like Chatur. It remembers everything and whatever it has learned in the history, whatever was written there in the history, it has mugged up everything. And in the process, it's in a position to answer anything which you may ask from those contexts. If any piece of the history is missing, it is not in a position. So this is the biggest challenge. People like us who are on the receiving end or who are going to use this, we do not have an idea where chatbot is not well trained, where the data was not adequate. So for the companies, it could be a challenge. Can they put this chatbot in front without knowing what is going in the background? One challenge. The other challenges are, it's a very powerful machine. Please remember, it's a very expensive machine. Similar things with similar performance can be done by other models. As I said, Chatbot GPT is a tool. There are other hundreds of AI tools which are available, which can be having a similar performance. Not exactly the same, but similar and controlled. So if there is a tool which is, you need to compare as a company, Nishith, whenever you are looking at a new tool, you need to have the benchmarking being done. And on many occasions, you will see that the new tool on many occasions is more expensive and the incremental performance is very small. So these are the challenges. Companies have to be very frugal. They cannot just adopt a new tool. They have to be very, very careful what they're bringing onto the table. What are the limitations of this tool? Is it the ROI on the tool is good? As I said, you do not want to drive your Mercedes or your racing car in the village road. So different tools, different things, companies need to be understanding the limitations of each of them and use it accordingly. These challenges companies need to be very much aware of.
Thanks, Hemant. So I think, overall, if you talk about, just to sum it out what Sanjay and Hemant said, I think it is all about getting the quality of the data, getting the accuracy of the data, getting the fairness and biasness in terms of it. And also the other challenge is all about, making sure that it is integrated into the existing workflows and systems. And also making sure that there is a right ROI that gets generated. Now, when we talk about AI, there has been a lot about, ultimately when I see it out, there's a ultimate complimentation about, good movies, right? AI and jobs. Everybody is talking about, this job is going to be replaced by AI and all of those. So I think my next question, which is something a need of an hour that we as a panelist needs to answer to all of you, is all about jobs and AI. And my question is more for Gio, right? Jobs and AI, looks to be an ultimate movie concepts, right? So how it all, in all seriousness, how can we make sure that AI is actually augmenting the jobs rather than replacing it? What are your thoughts around it?
I think it's going to be all over soon. All of us will be out of jobs. It's going to be horrible. Now, all jokes aside, I think people have been saying this about every new technology, right? That it was going to replace jobs and people are going to be obsolete. And AI has been around for a very long time, frankly. I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, where there are going to be bits and pieces of jobs where AI can probably take over. And there's going to be new kind of jobs coming up that AI is facilitating. I think the real question philosophically comes down to this. If you look at it today, most of these AI models, including ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI, are owned and operated by private companies, right? And so you got to understand the incentives. And so at some point, the question is going to be, do you build these models to augment and enable humans, or do you build these models to replace them, right? And I think there's a role for the government to get involved in these things to ensure that the greater good is always safeguarded. My sense is this. I think ultimately AI will be an enabler, but it will be an enabler for people who are willing to learn. I read some stats yesterday in preparation for this panel that said, while initially technology used to remove a lot of the lower end, low skilled jobs, AI increasingly is threatening the kind of skilled workers, knowledge workers, which is a very interesting perspective, because ultimately any technology is meant to push productivity, which then increases GDP, and people are not so sure today if AI is going to be able to do that.
No, I think government needs to play a very fair role in terms of demonstrating how the workers can use it. And for me, I think, one of the other aspect is that, certain tasks and not jobs are going to be displaced, but then there will be a lot of, as you really pointed out, more jobs that can be created in terms of it. But yeah, Mandeep, I want to also ask your thoughts, because you have been working on a lot of enterprise systems in the past, right? What is your thought on the potential threat of AI in terms of job, apart from what Gio and I just added out?
You see, technology has been coming. It started with the Industrial Revolution. And all through in my career of 35 years in IT, whenever we do automation, one of the basic requirement of the automation is efficiency and cutting costs. Some of the systems which we've created for global reconciliation systems, they have reduced down the workforce from 150 CPAs or chartered accountants and accountants working together to a team of 5. Now this is something which has been going on. It has been going on since 90s. And there is nothing new. It is not that people get displaced. There are a whole lot of accounting jobs. There are a whole lot of jobs and work available for chartered accountants. So it's not that they definitely need to understand the new mantra, but it's not that they would die of hunger. No, I don't think so. So what this technology is going to, any technology, first it needs to be popular. And this technology, ChatGPT has really tried to make it popular. We have been staying with AI for a while. It's been like 10 years. AI has been in the mainstream, but it is not that recognized. With ChatGPT, with Microsoft coming up with Copilot, putting in so much funds into it, what is happening is it's becoming popular, and they are trying to drive it to the masses. With integration of generative AI with your Office 365, or for programmers with Visual Studio, is something which is reaching out masses. And the masses would start using it. They would start demanding for more. And they would also, become enhanced in their capabilities. So it is just that when we have 2 feet, and if 1 feet is under pressure, we just shift the weight to the next feet and we move on. That is the whole idea. There is always merit versus non-merit. There is always people who are lethargic. There are always people who, stay in their comfort zone. And irrespective, all through in the era of humankind, you would find people who take the initiative. They are always on the forefront. Merit always wins. And that is what generative AI is also going to tell us and teach us the same lesson once more in the history of mankind.
I think well pointed, Mandeep, right? See, when I do talk out there, a lot of the people, and me and Gio were discussing in the back as well before this panel got started. And one of the things that I always say that, hey, if there's one thing that you can really learn in terms of this AI era, is just to become an agile in terms of your learning, right? If you can fail fast, learn more, learn new things, that is really very, very important in terms of all of this. And I think things becomes more complexer as we go over a period of time. And not just ChatGPT, I think there will be a lot of GPTs that are going to come in terms of, maybe as an enterprise as well. But let me, since we have been speaking about ChatGPT as well, let me ask this question to Hemant, right? How has ChatGPT started changing the face of generative AI?
Very good question, Nishith, to be honest. It is bringing a huge change. And think about it that the way Microsoft Office may have changed the world, right? The predictions were that how many computers are needed in the world. And when computers were there in the beginning, somebody, who was pretty smart at that point of time said that a couple of computers will be sufficient for the whole world. And where the change happened, when the Microsoft came into the picture, and they changed the way the people need to interact with computers. And today, even each of us are having a smart cell. phone with us. Each of them is a computer. So world has changed. Similarly, this ChatGPT, when we look at it, it has reached the masses straight, right? Any question you may be having in your mind, you can ask directly to the ChatGPT. And it is in a position, if the question is in English, and it is not a very recent data kind of thing. Let's say you're not asking what has happened in March of 23. As many of you may be knowing that ChatGPT has been trained on the data till 2021, right? So if you ask a very recent question, it will not be able to answer. But if you look at it, information till 2021 has been crunched in some fashion, and this information is at our fingertips. So let's say if your child is in class 10th, 11th or something, they can use the computer, and let's say they're having an assignment at home, right, from their school. They can put that assignment and they can get a very reasonable first level of answer available to them often. This is that mass appeal of ChatGPT, which was not seen by other AIs for a reasonable time. The other AI which it was seen but it became more of an entertainment was Siri and Alexa, right? All of us are having Alexa and Siri, or many of us are having Alexa and Siri at home. It was a change, but finally it became an entertainment device. If ChatGPT also does not have that trajectory, ChatGPT, if it gets part and parcel of life for learning, part and parcel for us, let's say Copilot, which is out of ChatGPT again, and people start utilizing it in a fashion to do their job well, faster, so that they are in a position to do more, this will change the overall scenario in the time to come. And the biggest change which I see from the Indian perspective is ChatGPT is in the middle. Many Indians, they do not speak English, let's say. They are not in a position to type. If the speech recognition capabilities are built on both the sides, where, let's say, the farmer who is in UP is able to ask a question, right, in his or her own language, in the dialect of their kind, it gets converted into the right forum, it gets given to the ChatGPT, the answer gets created by ChatGPT and it flows back. That's the kind of revolution. So many things which are going to be peripheral around ChatGPT, they will change the world in a way that we may not be able to recognize 10 years down the line.
No, I think well said, Hemant. So for me, I think more important thing is that it has become more intelligent, more versatile. It has been trained on a large data set. So I think it has become more accurate and effective as well. And I think that is really a way, because for the first time, presumably if you ask me, it is for the first time we have seen that distance or a difference between a robot and a man has started becoming more closer with ChatGPT. Having said that, I think there has been a new versions of ChatGPT like ChatGPT 4 and later, which actually are being more accurate than 2021. But I want to go back to Geo as well. And let me ask Geo, right? What has ChatGPT changed the face and of generative AI, and what are the unique opportunity does it provide over the top of it?
So I kind of want to build a little bit about what Hemant was saying. I think one of the things, let's take a step back. I work in banking, and so for those of you in the audience who followed banking lately, there's a lot of developments that have happened that have kind of changed banking, right? And so you have Silicon Valley Bank, you have Signature Bank, you obviously have Credit Suisse. And so I think one of the key things that changed, that kind of fueled these developments, is one of the same things that's fueled ChatGPT and similar programs. And so it's the ability for humans to connect and share information through social media and the internet at instant real-time levels, right? And so that's how you create a bank run. Before, in 2008, it was really hard to have a bank run because digital transfers were really hard and people would queue and go to a branch, and at the same time, it took some time before people started hearing these whispers or rumors that a bank was running out of money. I think now, because of social media, it's instantaneous. And so if you would have had ChatGPT, let's say 10 years ago, when Twitter wasn't really there, the adoption would have been far less. And it would have been far less prevalent to people, and far fewer people would have been able to play around with it. Now, in terms of what are the opportunities, I think they're massive. I think they're unlimited. And I think they're only restricted by our capability as humans to imagine the future. But I'll tell you two things. one, it's only as good as the way we use it, the questions we ask it, right? And so this idea of prompt engineering is really important. And number two, I just want to leave this quote out here from Sam Altman, who was the founder and CEO of OpenAI, who started ChatGPT. And so a couple months ago on Twitter, he said this. He said, ChatGPT is incredibly limited, but it's good enough in certain things to give you a misleading perception of greatness, right? And I think that's really, really important, because many people, when you have this interface and you type something and something comes out, you will assume it's true because it's AI and it's a robot, it must be true. But there's this concept of hallucination of fiction and fact, right? And I think that's really important to notice, that it doesn't have all the answers yet. Hemant talked about the fact that the data set is still very limited today, and it will remain limited. And so I think the real opportunity is understand the limitations of what it is and understand what it is that you want to get out of that. And if you can marry those two, I think you have unlimited potential.
No, I fairly agree. And I think over a period of time, you will see a lot of new models being created as a part of the GPT ecosystems, right? So you will say AI as a service GPT models getting created, right? Recently, I've heard that there is a GPT called Gita GPT, where you can start asking questions from Bhagavad Gita, and that will be answered. So same way, there will be a lot of models which will be created. There will be a lot of AI platform which will be created over a period of time. And also I feel that right now ChatGPT is just chat based. So there will be multiple modalities that will be added, be it voice, be it images, be it videos over a period of time. But when we started talking about this whole AI ecosystem, I think one of the important things that's a match which has been made in heaven is all about ethics and AI. We have been talking about ethical AI about it since a long time. And my question is more for Sanjay to ask, right? How do you ensure that the companies are making sure that there is an ethical AI being implemented as a part of this? How can an AI be an ethical apart from this? And how can they be more responsible and sustainable over a period of time?
I think this would be more on the the organizations or the company which are building those models, that they have to ensure that the output, or let's say the contextual discussions and the contextual output which is coming from these engines are not ethically biased, right? I think I will build upon what Hemant was saying. Couple of weeks back, I was on one of those ChatGPT platform, and I was looking for top CEOs, and to my surprise, the CEOs basically with ChatGPT came out, they were all whites. So the model basically which has been built, the model is basically basis the data. The data, if all the top CEOs are basically whites, probably the output also would come that all the CEOs are going to be white. I think that's the contextualization which has to be done. If you ask a human, then probably you would not get the same answer, because he is able to contextualize the question not only on the data set about this question, but contextualize the external environment through which basically he is getting the information. So I think the challenge is basically to make it more holistic, to make it basically not to look at a specific data set, but basically make it more contextual. Look at the other use cases, other data sets, and the idea would be to make it more inclusive, so that the biasness which comes out of search, or biasness which comes out of, let's say, reply to your questions. Certain questions, yes, comes perfectly. Hemant was talking about, let's say, a student asking, and I have a very contextual example. 2 weeks back, my son is in class 12th, and he has been studying chemistry, and he was saying that chemistry has all the rules, but there are so many exceptions, right? Every rule has an exception. And interestingly, his one of friends, he went on ChatGPT and said that 12th NCERT, these chapters, tell me the exceptions. And to my surprise, he was showing me, and ChatGPT listed down all the exceptions, because it was well documented, and that's where basically the search came out. But but if the information is not well documented, information is which needs more contextual, then the biasness will come, and that's where the responsibility is with the organization which are building these bots. Because as my other panelist was saying that whatever comes out of this chatbot, we start believing it as a truth, right? And that may not be the case always. Once I get couple of searches right, then I will presume that the fifth searches, which is more contextualized, will also come as a truth. And if this truth is based on the biasness, then probably the ethical boundaries will get transgressed. So I think a lot more responsibility goes on the organization which are building, so that we get a very conclusive and inclusive answers out of it.
No, point taken. And I think when you are talking about ethical and responsible IT, I think there are few areas that needs to be taken care. Not just the biasness about it, but privacy, security, data protection. I think that is very important. In fact, we also need to make sure that when the companies are really augmenting about it to use generative, they need to be very clear and concise about the usage to the people, to share that, hey, where exactly they are trying to use this generative AI. Hemant, you want to add some points to this whole ethical AI concepts apart from this?
Before you go, I would like to add what you said. I think this is more like a catch-22 situation. One way, basically, we are saying that these engines needs a lot of data. The other part is basically when ethical consideration comes up, when something like GDPR comes up, when something like Indian data protection rule comes up, that will probably restrict the data basically which can be fed into it. When we talk about security, when we talk about privacy, then the data basically which is going to be fed to these engines will go limited. And for these engines to operate, the data is the feed. If the data gets restricted, then ultimately we are actually going to question or see the constraint on the output of these chatbots, or probably the ethical engines.
Hemant, you want to add some points from the ethical perspective?
So, just to again, let's go back to the basics. How many of you have seen WALL-E as a movie? WALLE. Do you remember what was the situation of the human race when in that spaceship everybody is just lying and watching, and how human race reaches that particular situation? It's because they did not use their brain, right? So somewhere the brain was used, and it was used to the level where rest of the generation is in complacent mode. Are we aware of these possibilities as well? That if we do not use our brain, which is a muscle, right? Any muscle which we use, it becomes strong. Let's say every day you walk 10 kilometers, your leg muscles will be strong, your heart muscle will be strong. If you stop doing that, your muscles will get weak. Brain, if we become too much dependent on AI, and let's say we stop processing the data through our own brain, this is one of the ethics problem. What kind of rules the government is going to bring, though that the future generations, they may use these AI tools maybe for help, but not for, let's say, creating the answers and then putting them out. One ethics problem, right? Future generation, what are we giving to them? One thing which just Sanjay mentioned, already many artists in the world, they are saying that, can you use my data without my permission to generate something and put it into a generative AI? Whether it's GitHub, is the data belonging to me or is it belonging to somebody else, and that person went ahead? These images which were generated by the artists, they have been used, right, for DALL-E, for example, another generative AI. So the point is, already these debates are happening. GDPR things Sanjay already mentioned. These are again ethical considerations. These databases which belong to the public, how they should be utilized. The last part of it is that, is this database complete? And how confident I am when I'm looking at an answer which has been given by ChatGPT. Some of my panelists mentioned that. I'll give you one very specific example. Very similar, Sanjay, to your example. So my daughter is in class 11th and she was doing some research on one particular topic, because of which I had to read one book which is not available in printed form at all. This book is pretty old one, and only the PDF which has been scanned kind of thing is available. And in this, there is a small, paragraph which mentions what was the education system of India before the British came in. It was the local education system. How this system used to work? There will be temples or priests or the local masjid, the religious places. Children will study in these places free of cost. This model was known as Madras system or monitorial system, right? This is the way this system used to operate. British, they came, this whole system was destroyed, but British took this system back home and they used this system to teach the poor population of their country at a very cost-effective fashion. If you go to ChatGPT and you ask this question, the influence of Indian education system in UK, ChatGPT always gives you this, that UK or the England brought the university system into India. It is not having that information which is in selected few places because it's not aware of it. This is again unethical if I have to look at it. So these are different challenges I keep seeing, and more research is needed which has not been done as of now if you look at it. Real academic research to understand where ChatGPT or any other generative things, how they should be taking the data, how this data should be utilized, how this data should be taken to the masses, because it's a responsibility which lies with us. If we as the AI researchers are not in a position to do it, I think the game is already lost.
No, I think fair point, right? Well said. I think what is more important apart from privacy, security and data protection, I think one of the important thing is also to monitor, what is the responses of our AI system, right? ChatGPT is just one of the example, but probably not restricted. 1 year from now, there will be many XYZ GPTs that will be created over the past. And what we need to make sure is to having a proper, consistent online, monitoring and, reviewing mechanism of these AI system, that what their responses are. And in case if their responses are not true, probably we need to have a mechanism to make it more clear as such. Now, see, we have been talking about ethical AI, and it can be used for a good purposes. It can be used for, wrong purposes as well. My question is more for Mandeep, right? Mandeep, how can generative AI can be restricted for usage of, non-usage of harmful purposes as such, right? So is there a way, right, how you can stop perpetual biasing, discrimination and this sort of stuff?
See, it's a great technology, and definitely we are, some of us are worried about technology, and predominantly we've been worried about anything which is new which comes in. Here's an infant, here's a baby which has just taken birth, and it gives us tremendous capabilities. Most important part is that it has created enthusiasm in market. Let me ask a question. When today you all came to Pragati Maidan, how many of you used Google Maps or some maps to navigate out here? If you can raise your hands. Yeah? How many of you are spending at least half hour on WhatsApp every day? So, would you call Google Maps negative or positive in life? Would you call WhatsApp negative or positive in life? It doesn't have a straight answer. It is, certain people have become degenerated with this. There are certain people who use Google Maps and they cannot navigate. I mean, for anything and everything, they need Google Maps to be directing them where to go. They need WhatsApp, and that is their world. They are imprisoned in WhatsApp or social media. Here is an infant which has just taken birth. It is becoming popular, and for me as a technology company, it is an asset, it is an opportunity which I need to encash. As far as ethics is concerned, it is a resource. Just like we have employees in office, just like we have computers, we have investment in our plants, Similarly, there is an investment which goes on in generative AI. We have our ethics, we have our vision, we have our ethics, and those ethics would govern this asset just like it governs our employees or investment into plants. Right? So that is the bottom line. For individuals, so let's say there is a social media content writer. If that social media content writer starts using Notion or ChatGPT to do their work, which is one day's work in half hour, it is unethical for them to palm off half hour or 1 hour work as a full day work. That is unethical. Sooner than later, the enterprise is going to come up, identify this and show the door to that person, and that should not be muted as a negative aspect of ChatGPT. For truthful people, for hardworking people, it is a great opportunity. For organization, it is a great opportunity because this opportunity provides both breadth and depth. When you go to a chatbot, the chatbot needs to understand your intent. Your intent is coming from your utterance, what you are saying. So the utterance first has to be converted into right intent, and that right intent has to come up with a response. So when you go to any organization in customer service or whatever, you need breadth of things which you'll ask them, and you need right and correct answers which have depth, which has specialization. And ChatGPT is the new logic, the ChatGPT is new mantra in which we associate our minds and we create something which is worthwhile. With most of the principals coming up with their ChatGPT or generative AI offering, as a professional services company, it's an opportunity for me to learn those models, to sell these models to our customers, to customize these models for my customers, and to make money out of it. And this is ethical for a company because we are there in business to make money. Government and other activity and other safeguards which come in would come in only after they say in India, "Balik to hone do," uske baad law lagega uspe, right? So we are talking about an infant which is just 2 years old. Let the infant grow, let's gain and let's have fun with that infant, let's make it grow, and then all these logics, what we are doing in social media and all will definitely come to generative AI also. Sorry for the long answer.
No, I think fair enough. I think ethical guidelines needs to be set it out in order to make sure that there has to be risk that can be mitigated. But Gio, you want to add some points from the how can we mitigate risks from generative AI from doing some harmful stuff for the companies?
I think I don't really have that much to add in that sense. I think a lot of it has already been said. I think I like the argument. It comes down to everything else. Any technology can be used for good or bad, or can be considered good or bad, depending on how you use it. I think the ethics piece is still very young. I think, as you said, the technology in its popular format is still very young. And so, my kind of non-answer answer would be, I think it's really more important to understand that we need to monitor the ethical implications of this technology as it goes, as we do with any new technology, really. But I think it's too early to be able to say what we can do, because I don't think we've seen the true impact that ChatGPT can have in our lives just yet. But I'll give you one example if you allow me, right? So we're a bank, which means we're a regulated licensed entity, and one of the things we're playing around with, we're going to launch fairly soon, is this kind of augmented reality avatar in a metaverse context that's powered by ChatGPT, right? And it's purely conversational, and the idea would be that customers can go in our branch and kind of experience this immersive, the future of banking. And so when you start doing that as a bank, there's a lot of problems, because now ChatGPT is going to speak to my customers on my behalf, and everything they say, the central bank will hold me accountable for, right? And so any kind of advice, any kind of commentary, and so a lot of our efforts are now focused on how do we narrow train this model to make sure that it stays out of certain topics, because people, this is the way it works. even if you put boundaries, there's always people who are going to try and break those boundaries, hack the tool, use prompt engineering to do that, right? And there's really interesting examples out there for ChatGPT where people kind of came up with this prompt to imagine it being a completely unrestricted, unlimited AI and gave it the idea of mortality. And so every time it wouldn't answer a certain question, it would lose certain credits, and if it came down from 5 to 0, it would die, right? And through that prompt hacking, it was able to get it to say a couple of things that OpenAI actually did not want ChatGPT to be able to say. And so this is really my problem fundamentally, which is the AI is not governed by ethics. It cannot be, right? We are governed by ethics. And so how do you train a model to ensure that it stays within certain limitations, but at the same time fulfills this kind of idealistic potential of being omnipotent, right? And I think that's really more a philosophical question than anything else that comes with any new great technology.
So Gio, I think those were really the golden words that you have said. Now I just want to open it out for the people, for the audience, if they want to ask any questions. So let's get started with someone. Yeah. So we'll take 2 or 3 question max, and I will request panelists to be, just be very concise so that we can answer 2 or 3 questions at the stuff. Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Sai. Very interesting discussion here. We talked about a lot about text and ChatGPT itself. I would like to expand upon the generative AI in terms of imaging. Say like text to image is something that I'm like really concerned about. Like, should the platforms be responsible, saying like at least putting a watermark on the pictures that it's generated by AI? Because you have seen in the news that like what happened with Trump or Obama, like we've seen that, right? We'll have to differentiate. Would the users be able to differentiate if it's generated by AI or it's an actual picture taken? I think in that context, I think the platforms have to do a bit. So we would like to know your thoughts on that.
See, I think I'll add one point to it, and then I will open the floor for other people to add. So while there is a way that the contents are getting generated and consolidated, there are a lot of checkers that are also been coming into the market which can say whether this is AI generated or not. So in terms of the images or a text or even videos or whatever you are saying, that can certainly be there. There's a lot to be worked over there in that space for sure. But yes, I agree with that. Means if the panelists want to add some pointers based on the questions.
Right, so a very short answer to your question. OpenAI has already said that such things will be inbuilt, right? But as you know that OpenAI is not the only company which is operating in this space. How the other companies respond to the same thing? Is it that government has to come into the picture and certain frameworks need to be put? It will come in future, but certain companies, they have taken the responsibility that even if nothing exists, we are going to use certain things. And the way you said watermark for the images, they are talking about certain kind of things being embedded also in the text which is generated, so that it's much easier for us to understand it is coming from AI system basically. So such systems are already in place.
Who wants to answer it? Joe.
I just want to say, I love that question or comment. It's amazing. And so take it broader than just images. Synthesize voice, synthesize video, deep fakes. And so you start thinking about it. You generate these fake images or fake voices or fake videos, but then also that gets reconsumed back into the model, right? Because as the model grows, it uses this, and this is exactly my point earlier about hallucination between fiction and fact. And I think no matter what people do in terms of disclaimers, this is going to be a pivotal issue as we kind of grow the reach that these generative AI tools will have in society.
Any questions? Any more questions?
I had a little bit to add here, just a bit. You see, there is a whole lot of metadata with videos, with images. You look up XF data, there are 5 different varieties of data, and you would find the answer there. It's inbuilt. You don't have to go far. It is just that you have to step out, research a bit, and you will get to know. It's existing today.
Yeah, I have a question, and I just have my own observation also. Lovely listening to all your interesting thoughts about it. But what I feel is, this being a technology, Till now, we had been more on automation. So when we search on Google, we blindly believe what Google had sent, being it been running it through its search rankings. But why don't we take the AI, which is ChatGPT, more of a democratizing it by questioning? Should not believe whatever it types in as because it is generating AI. It will be generating creative new things. So now why don't we think AI as something which is not a blunt answer, but something we should always question? We should only take it as some input, which we should be able to create more, a creative platform, rather than even when you say DALL-E, Midjourney, it is a creative platform. It doesn't copy, mostly it is not copying everything. What we think, till now it was all data, which is automated. We are automating things, but here it is giving a chance where we are able to create, and we would be able to create better of what we get. So now rather just copying paste what we got.
So what's your question?
So my question is, why won't we think in different way? Because till now I'm hearing is everyone thinks it's a platform where we're copying things.
I think the short answer is this, right? As I mentioned, there are a lot of, as a business model, that are going to evaporate, bring it out into the system. That will certainly come over a period of time. And then certainly, it's left to the enterprises to really unleash this whole stuff, how they want to use it, right? I can certainly say that 1 year from now, there will be many more versions about it, as what Hemant rightly pointed. There's not just ChatGPT, there are a lot of other LLMs which are coming, a lot of other enterprises are really, it is just like, you have seen the Google map, but you have not seen the Uber part of the word, which is the applications on top of the Google map, for example, right? So those applications still needs to be unleashed. It's just the enterprise are still having a discussion about what are the creative stuff that can be done. The last question from you,
my
sir.
question goes to Hemant. Hemant, if you look at the low-hanging fruit for companies like Swiggy, Jio, etc., it's the whole customer service has now come on AI-based chatbots, and we see that as your low-hanging fruit. If you could give us a perspective of what are the challenges you're seeing, because you've got this kind of chatbots already commercially. So we see it as consumers, but what are the challenges you're seeing it for corporates? And what do you see as a roadmap? Because Gio mentioned that you also have immersive banking experiences, and what he's planning in the next 1 year from companies like Swiggy, what can we see as a roadmap of services as consumers you would offer us, leveraging these as tools?
Right. So first answer, a short one, and then maybe I'll elaborate little. ChatGPT is a general purpose system, right? You ask about quantum physics, it'll answer you quantum physics. If you ask about, let's say, chemistry, it'll give you chemistry. Ask about literature. Most of the companies, if you look at them, they operate in a domain. And because of that, the problem statements are much simpler for us. We do not need ChatGPT, which is very expensive. We can do better than ChatGPT on occasion with a simpler technology. Just to give you an idea, let's say 25 variations of a question exist, which customer can ask in terms of, where is my food? Where is my order? Mera food kahan hai? Port mixing, which I just gave the example. Why the hell my food is not arriving? They're all same. But there is a variation which is, let's say, maybe 50 variations of this question. All the questions will have, let's say, 3 kind of answers depending on what is happening on the ground. The delivery executive may have met an accident, for example. The food has been spoiled, delivery executive is trying to manage what should be done, right? Unless and until a call has been made to the delivery executive, this information is not available to the system. So these 3 opportunities exist with us. Instead of saying that let the ChatGPT kind of system directly answer to the question to the audience or to the customer, we are having an agent in the loop. Agent is giving these 3 options, which are possible answers to this kind of intent. And then once these answers are there, the agent makes a call to the delivery executive, finds out what is going on. He clicks one of the answer which is most appropriate, and the answer goes through. So if you look at it, most of the systems which are there, they are more than happy to this kind of have things. Now the approach which can be delta on it, let's say if I'm having some device with the D which is able to give me the signal what is happening on the ground. Then out of these three answers, only one answer is which valid. And this answer I can directly provide through the chat without human coming into the picture. Right, so if you look at it application wise, I am having much simpler system but much superior performance as compared to ChatGPT, and they work beautifully basically.
Yeah.
Right, and this is something which will be the approach. Most of the companies, they do not need very, very sophisticated system because our products are inward facing. ChatGPT and these things, they are for the more generic search, and that's the space where they are operating as of now.
So I think, thank you so much, Sanjay, Hemant, Mandeep, and Gio. I think this is a discussion where, we can probably spend like, half a day and still the questions will be unanswered. Just I want to sum up everything. Generative AI has started, showing its color over a period of time, and I think it is left for the enterprises for adoptions. You will see a lot of models that are going to be created, a lot of opportunities that are going to be created. Stuff needs to be focused on security, data protections and all. And I think that is what we want to really say as a panelist. Thank you so much for listening it out. I'll leave it out to the audience to one.
Okay. Thank you very much, all the speakers and the moderator. But before we close, I would like to request our moderator, Nishith Pathak, to give mementos to the speakers. The first one goes to Sanjay Kumar Tripathi. Thank you, sir, for your kind presentation. Mr. Hemant Misra. Giovanni Gavino. Mr. Mandeep Singh. And of course, last but not the least, sir, our moderator, Mr. Nishith Pathak. Can I have somebody from Exhibitions India, Ruchika, to give away the memento to our moderator, who's done a wonderful job. It was a very interesting session. I'm sure everyone will agree to it.